We're going to look at naming angles and also measuring angles using a protractor. So we're going to start off looking at the three angles that are here. If you look, it may look like there's only two angles, but there's also the big angle right here. The one, let me show you real quick. This is the big angle, and then there's these two angles right here. So there's three altogether. And we're going to start off by naming the top one. We'll call that angle WXY. If you notice, when I name this first, there's a symbol for an angle in front, and I name it as if I'm going around the angle, and the vertex is always in the middle. Okay. The bottom angle here we can call angle YXZ, and then the big one that I told you that contained the two angles, that would be angle WXZ. Of course, we can name all of these in the opposite direction, but remember the vertex is at X, so we have to make sure that that's in the middle. So we could also name this to be YXW. We could name this to be ZXY. And this last one we could name ZXW. Now, if I were to put a number here and a number here, these two angles are what we call adjacent angles because they have a common vertex and a side that they share together. So if we wanted to, this top one is the same as these two, so we could also call this angle 1, and this bottom one is the same as these two, so we could also call this angle 2. The only thing we can't call any of these angles is angle X, and I'll write the reason why in just a minute. So those are the three possible names or the reverse orders of those. And again, we cannot name any of these angles angle X because all three angles have X as their vertex. Therefore, we wouldn't know what we were talking about when we said angle X here. Would we be talking about the top one, the bottom one, or the big one? Therefore, we have to name it this way. If we have one angle by itself, we can just name it angle X. Now we're going to look at how to measure and classify angles. So there's two parts to this problem. We have to measure them first and then classify them. If we look carefully at this protractor, the protractor has two scales on it. So we have a scale that starts at 0 and goes all the way up to 90 and then all the way down to 80, which is on the outside. Another scale starts on the inside at 0, goes all the way up to 90 and then all the way over to 180. Depending on which side we start at, if we start on the left-hand side, we use the outer scale. If we start on the right-hand side, we use the inner scale. So we're going to look first at angle KHJ, and if we want to know how big an angle is, we put the M in front of it to show it's the measure of this angle. So KHJ starts here, goes down to H, and goes over to J. If we zoom in real quick, I'm going to zoom in so we can see what's going on there. If we zoom in, we can see that we're starting at 0 here, and we're going up until it hits the protractor. And if you look, if 0 is here, we use the bottom scale, and it goes up to 50. It goes in between 50 and 60. And if we look, it's halfway in between in this case. If we count off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is 55 degrees. So if we go back to where we were, we would say that the measure of angle KHJ is 55, or you could put 55 degrees. Either way is fine. Let me erase that real quick. We'll go on to the next one. The next one we have the measure of angle GHK. And we'll go ahead and classify these angles when we're done. GHK, if we mark this off, G is here, H is at the vertex, and K goes up this way. So if I zoom in one more time, we look at this carefully again, GHK here, we're starting on the left-hand side, so we're going to use the outer scale, and we go all the way up. This is 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. So we're in between 120 and 130, and if we look at the blue line, again, it happens to be right in the middle. If we count off 1, 2, 3, 4, it's the fifth one. So if this is 100, 110, 120, this would be 125 right here. So we would write 125. For the third one, we've got the measure of angle GHJ. And let me erase that real quick. So we're looking now at GHJ. I'm going to have to move this up just a little bit so we can see what's going on. So for GHJ, we start at the G side, we go to H, and then we go to J. If you look, this goes all the way across. So the most it can go, either going from left to right or from right to left, that would be 180 degrees. So I'm not even going to zoom in this case. The answer is 180 degrees. And let's look at the last one. And then we'll classify all these angles. When it says classify the angle, what it's saying is name it in terms of what type of angle it is. And we have a couple different angles. We have acute angles, we have right angles, we have obtuse angles, and we have straight angles. So we'll talk about that in just a sec. The last one is the measure of angle GHL. So GHL starts at G, so it's on this left-hand side, goes to H, and then goes up to L. And hopefully you can see from there that this is 90 degrees. If we start from the top or the outer ring, it's 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way up to 90 here. So in this case, I don't think we need to zoom in this time. The angle is 90 degrees. And again, you can write 90 or 90 degrees is fine. So for this first angle, it's in between 0 and 90 degrees. That makes this an acute angle. So you can just say acute angle. This one is in between 90 and 180. This makes it obtuse. This is 180 degrees. That automatically makes it a straight angle. And this last one is 90 degrees. That makes it a right angle. Again, definitions you're just going to have to know. So again, they'll go through it real quick. Protractor has outer and inner scale. When you measure it, I told you which scale to use and why to use it. So for the first one, it was 55 degrees. It's acute. The second one is 125 degrees. It's obtuse. The third one's a straight angle. And the fourth one is a right angle. All right, so if we look at this carefully, one thing you may have noticed is this little box here. Whenever we put a box here, this is automatically a right angle. So if we were to name the three angles, I'm going to start off with this top one, and we're going to name that PQR. And then I'm going to name the one lower to the right. This is angle RQS going around. RQS. And the third angle is the big one. That's angle PQS. Now it did say which angle is the right angle. That's the one that's 90 degrees. That's the one that has the box here to show that it's 90 degrees. So PQS is a right angle. Okay. And finally, if it says to draw a pair of opposite rays, I'm going to do that real quick. Opposite rays, remember, it's two rays that have a common endpoint. So there's the first part. We'll call this B, and we'll call this C. So this is ray BC. And then for the second one, we're going to go this way. And we'll put an A here. The names of the two rays, one of the rays is ray BC, because we start at B and go through C. The second one is ray BA. Remember, we started at B and went through A. What kind of angle do the rays form in this case? It's 180 degrees, so this is a straight angle. Okay. So again, there you go. And that's it. Thank you.